Hi guys, so Andrew Marr spoke to Tim Martin, or as I like to call him, Tim Wetherspoons, about a number of issues from the price of a pint of beer to the alcohol content. But towards the end of the interview, the host asked if Martin had any regrets when it came to Brexit. Now, Wetherspoons pubs both before and after the Brexit referendum were very Brexit-friendly places with pro-Leave propaganda posters all over the place. Ironically, Tim began complaining about trouble finding staff and even beer shortages at the beginning of Brexit. But does he have any regrets? Hell no.
Do you have any regrets? Regrets? I have a few.
I don't actually. I've been reading, since I knew I was coming on your show, I've been reading the Financial Times, which is quite pro-Remain.
No, the Financial Times is not pro-Remain. The Financial Times is pro-reality. My God, the Financial Times pro-Remain. If you were to try and stand by this argument that the Financial Times is pro-Remain, then what's the alternative? And it's a pile of crap to say that they're pro-Remain. They have to provide financial information to the people who need it, like bankers or investors. Because if they provide bad information, they lose their reputation as a reliable source. God.
And I've been reading readers' comments, of which there are thousands, and I'm amazed the depth of emotion on this issue, but I don't think many people have changed their minds. I was brought up mostly in Northern Ireland, and you tend to be on one side of the fence or the other on the same issue. There's nothing, so it provokes something in the human soul. Are you going to be ruled from Dublin or London? And for most people around the world, they thought, well, why does anyone care? It's, they're both democracies. And it's the same thing I think's happened in the UK. It's become very polarised. Have I regrets? No. I think for humanity to survive, I think we need democracy. We need...
What are you talking about? We need democracy. What's Brexit got to do with democracy? Does he not understand that Nigel Farage was elected to the European Parliament? Nigel Farage couldn't get elected to the UK Parliament. What does he mean, democracy?
We need democracy in China, we need democracy in Russia, especially in the nuclear age. And my bone to pick with the EU is you don't elect the president by universal suffrage. MEPs can't initiate legislation, and the ECJ, the court, isn't accountable to Parliament.
But the Supreme Court in Britain isn't accountable to Parliament. What's he talking about?
Democratic issue, not an economic one.
Well, I think the two things go together, which, a lot of Remainers won't accept this. But I think the most powerful elixir for economics and for personal freedoms is democracy. And when you start reducing it...
Was Rishi Sunak elected as Prime Minister? No, he wasn't. The UK doesn't have a parliament. Sorry, it doesn't have a president. It has a king. Was the king elected? No, he wasn't. Was Rishi Sunak elected Prime Minister? No, he wasn't. He was elected as MP. So, at what stage is he saying, well, yes, the UK is a better democracy than European countries? What he's trying to focus here on is not European countries, but the EU. But the EU is not a country. Why are you comparing it to a country? It's not a country. If you want to go down that road, well, who democratically elected the head of NATO? Did people in Britain vote for the head of NATO? No, they didn't. What about the UN? Or any organization, supranational organization? Oh, God.
The level of economic performance eventually declines.
But don't you think back to the moment you were pulling pints with Boris Johnson and the things that were said about Brexit before and afterwards, and what has actually turned up? Food prices, far from going down, went up. We've had all sorts of trade frictions and so on, and the arguments about the 350 million.
The problem here with Andrew Marr is that he's asking economic questions. He's making arguments based on economics. Tim Martin doesn't care about the cost of living. He doesn't care about the economic impact Brexit is having. He only cares about democracy, whatever that is in his mind.
Don't you think that the way Brexit was sold and has been rolled out by successive governments has been, in the words of Mervyn King, who was sitting in that chair last week, a shambles?
I think democracy is always chaotic and shambolic. And I thought Boris, with his 8 years of running a magazine successfully, 8 years London mayor, would be a good administrator, etc. And I think he struggled with that side of the job far more than one could have imagined. So, but I think if you look around the world, you look at Britain between 1980 and now, real living standards doubled, as they did in the 30 years before that. And out of all the chaos, and wars, chaos, recessions, we're twice as well off. So strange.
But the UK was a member of the EEC at the time, the European Economic Community. Later the EC, and then later the EU. So he's saying, well, you know, when we were a member of the EEC, the economy was doing really well. Living standards were up. He's making an argument against Brexit here. What has happened since Brexit? I don't think he understands what he's talking about. Of course, he's talking about democracy. Well, you know, it's about democracy or sovereignty. We got our sovereignty back. We got our democracy back. Really? Is that what you're going with? But you're a businessman. Surely you should care more about economics. How difficult it is for your business to access the workers it needs. How difficult it is to import the materials that you need to sell in your pub. Or the breweries that are relying on importing raw materials to make the beer. Are you not concerned about that? Probably not. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.